In 1996, a movie about an alien invasion captivated audiences everywhere. The battle for the soul of a planet was on, and audiences grew to appreciate it even more as time went on, even though it was perceived as hokey and, just all over the place. It found a place in the hearts of pop culture. And no, I'm not talking about that movie where the President of the United States gets in a jet and fights off aliens. I'm talking about that Nike commercial that got turned into a feature-length film. Come on and slam, and welcome to the jam. Come on and slam, if you want to jam. Okay, yeah. So, welcome to So to Speak. I'm Evan Mead.
I'm Lyle Groniger.
And we're joined by...
the courtside reporter. Josh.
Okay, that's his name from now on. The courtside reporter.
Alright.
Maybe, hey, I think we just found his spin-off show. But anyways.
Courtside report with Josh.
Okay. Today we're going to do... The only other time we've touched upon current events, like on this show, was when I covered the 2020 election that Trump lost and Biden won. So, but we're going to not talk, we're not going to go into political contemporary events today.
Wow.
We are going to talk about a couple movies in honor of a sequel that just came out to Space Jam. It took 25 bloody years, but it happened. I didn't think it would happen, but let's talk about let's do a double feature. Let's give our 2 cents on the first Space Jam, and then we're going to talk about the sequel that just came out. Okay, so a little background. Lyle, since you are probably the least vested in Space Jam, you get to recount the plot of the first movie. It's pretty easy to sum up. It's not.
Real?
It's not like it's Lord of the Rings or anything.
No, it's not. So Space Jam is about basically there's this alien amusement park way past the moon, and they're struggling because they don't have any new attractions. So their idea is, they want to capture the Looney Tunes and have them. They want to enslave the Looney Tunes, but to do that they have to win in a competition that the Looney Tunes decide. So the Looney Tunes are like, well, these aliens are all short and silly, so we'll just own them in a basketball game because obviously. But then the aliens absorb the abilities of famous basketball players, and the only one I recognized was Charles Barkley. I always almost say Gnarls Barkley, but it's Charles Barkley.
Yeah.
And so they get super strong and super tall and shit, and so the Looney Tunes are like, oh no, we're in trouble because we're not super tall and strong and good. So we need one person to help us, and that one guy is legendary baseball player Michael Jordan.
Baseball player? Oh right, yeah. This was set in the period of real life where Michael Jordan was on top of the NBA shit heap. He was king of everything. He was viewed as this god among men, and then he retired. The first time he retired.
Well, for context, Michael Jordan, even as a high school and college player, was one of the best to ever set foot on the court. And in the early 90s, the Chicago Bulls went from a relatively middle-of-the-road basketball team to a three-peat of NBA Finals from 91 to 93. And then in late 93, after that season, Michael Jordan decides to retire from playing basketball because he wants to focus on playing baseball like his late father did. And that's why a lot of the mid-90s, for a couple of years, he was playing with the Chicago White Sox's Double-A affiliate, the Birmingham Barons. Not doing that well, obviously, but that's the sort of setting this movie takes place in. You even see a bit of him playing in a game at the beginning.
Yeah. He's a legendary basketball player. I was just being silly. I am the least knowledgeable guy about sports, but yeah, at least you guys keep me up to speed.
Well, I only know that he played for the Bulls for a long time, and then at one point he played for the Washington Wizards. I don't know how long that lasted.
That was like early 2000s, and then there was that whole like ownership period with like the Charlotte Bobcats, and then the Wizards, and now the Charlotte Hornets. It's a whole thing.
Okay.
Okay, so I established the premise. Do I have to go through the entire plot, or
well,
are we good?
basically, you summed it up. The Looney Tunes recruit Michael Jordan to basically win a basketball game to save their asses from perpetual slavery. So it's essentially Michael Jordan gets sucked into the Toontown scene from Who Framed Roger Rabbit for 45 minutes, and you think it would be kind of cool, but it actually lends itself to some outdated green screen fuckery. Like, remember that scene where like the Monstars? That's the name of the
the Monstars. I forgot their name.
No. Okay, so you remember that scene where
the evolved forms of the Monstars, they're technically called Nerdlucks.
Nerdlucks, yes, and they come from Moron Mountain. That's
Danny DeVito hooked them up.
Yeah.
So, anyways, he started blasting.
So he started blasting.
Yeah. So, anyways,
I gotta admit, having Frank from It's Always Sunny as like the main villain is actually kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
Danny DeVito's great and everything.
Okay.
Just like Wayne Knight. Wayne Knight's great in this too.
So.
I think Newman really hams it up, for better or worse.
Yeah, but I like it.
Yeah.
And then we can't forget Bill Murray.
Yeah,
who
Bill Murray steals the damn show.
He does in every scene.
Yeah, I liked how he's kind of this kiss ass to Larry Bird when and Michael Jordan are on the golf course. One of my favorite, my two favorite jokes in the movie actually belong to Bill Murray, where it's like, remember when like Michael Jordan, the Looney Tunes capture Michael Jordan? No, they literally get him to agree to all this by capturing him, and it's really weird. Like, Michael Jordan isn't horrified to be in what is essentially cartoon land.
He's not even all that thrilled either. He's kind of indifferent.
He can't fucking act to save his life.
No, I mean, he shows up and he's kind of happy to be there. So at least he doesn't look dead inside or anything.
Yeah,
more or less. He's just kind of like playing himself.
Yeah, no, but the point is, he wasn't funny, and he's with the Looney Tunes, so you feel like Looney Tunes and Michael Jordan, like the thing that the parents of the 90s kids grew up on came together with something that 90s kids grew up on, NBA basketball and the Looney Tunes. So it seems like it would be a pretty cool idea for a family film. And to be honest, when I saw it for the first time, when I was about 11 or 12, I had fun with it. It's got a charm to it. I will say this though, because I already watched a ton of Looney Tunes cartoons by then, the voice acting on the part of the Looney Tunes seems off. Like,
mostly everything about the Looney Tunes is off.
Yeah, no, their humor, their caliber of humor isn't even that good. Like, compared to the Looney Tunes of the 50s, or even heck, it would be another like 8 years later, there was Looney Tunes Back in Action, which came and went. And
I have not.
I feel like you and I will probably end up watching that soon, just to kind of tie this whole Looney Tunes streak.
I remember you made me watch.
I honestly got to rewatch Back in Action. It's been quite a long time.
I wanted Lyle to watch the first 10-20 minutes of it because for one specific scene. There's a scene in that movie.
The Matthew Lillard joke.
Matthew Lillard makes a hilarious cameo. Yeah. We're not gonna spoil it, but
I remember those first 20 minutes. I was like, please turn this off.
Yeah. No, the movie. I'm gonna be generous. The movie does get a little better after that.
Okay. But anyway, back to Space Jam.
So back to Space Jam. So that's and the basketball game is exactly what you think a basketball game with the Looney Tunes would be like. Put it this way, if you've ever seen, what's a good episode where, a good Looney Tunes cartoon where, like, they take a sport and the Looney Tunes just invert the shit out of it? Bully for Bugs with the whole bullfighting thing. That's probably one
yes, that's a classic.
So, it goes exactly how you think that would play out, except the jokes are a little over the top. And,
Looney Tunes, for God's sake.
Well, of course it is. Now, I forgot to mention, it was this movie that had the Looney Tunes introduce a new character who actually would be in Looney Tunes lore going from the late 90s to the early 2000s. Lola Bunny.
Lola. La, 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 Lola.
Yeah. I'm not bad. I was just wrong bunny.
Don't call her a doll, Lola.
Yeah, no. I don't. To avoid this getting into a weird discussion about furry culture, yeah, Lola Bunny was a thing, and she still kind of is a thing, as we'll get to that in the sequel. But so the point is, it's this generic message of there actually was kind of a moral going on, because the plot is Michael Jordan is king of the world of basketball. He goes to baseball. He sucks at baseball. And then when the Looney Tunes recruit him to help, play a game against the aliens, he's like, I don't play basketball anymore. But still, he plays amazingly well, and he actually is like the team's MVP. And he saves their butts twice. More often.
He's
than
practically the coach of the team as well.
Yeah, I know, he really was. And Lyle, how did you feel about that Pulp Fiction joke with Yosemite Sam and Elmer Fudd?
That made me chuckle.
Yeah.
That I honestly had to give props to WB for doing that. It's like the few times they sneak in some adult jokes for the parents of the kids watching, it's like, I'll allow it.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the one thing it's I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about this, but Space Jam is one of the most overly commercialized, overly dependent on product placement movies one will ever see.
That one line from Stan.
Oh yeah.
Lace up your Nikes and grab a box of Wheeze and we'll grab a Big Mac on the way to the ballpark.
Yeah.
That line makes me
Or something to that extent.
I feel like this movie had like four writers, and I guess not one of them like even tried to hide the fact that
It's interesting you mentioned commercials, because I'm looking at the director right now, Joe Pytka, who holds the record for most nominations in the DGA for outstanding directing commercials.
Oh wow!
So he has that credit, I guess.
I guess.
I mean, the whole premise is based on a commercial, so
yeah, that's true.
What do you expect?
In the early '90s, Nike paid Warner Brothers a shit ton of money to have Looney Tunes characters in their commercials for Air Jordans. So more often than just occasionally, kids would see Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny on TV playing basketball, to buy the shoes. And it's like, okay, if that works, then let's turn it into a movie. And literally, a commercial that got turned into a feature film became a thing. But I still feel like there's a charm to it. There's something, that just reminds me of what it was like to be a kid. Like, if a kid wrote a movie about, his basketball hero playing with his cartoon friends, that's like the kind of movie that would totally sell in the 90s. And it did sell, because in our nostalgia-laced culture, Space Jam comes up quite a bit in a fond kind of way. And even when guys like TJ Kirk take a big, steaming, dump of a review on it, I actually find it endearing, because, like, the fact that it's, campy and commercialized in a weird sort of way kind of adds to the charm to it. I feel like, talking about the soundtrack got whoever was big in hip-hop at the time. And
this soundtrack is underrated, except the song they decided to anchor the movie with has become very problematic for obvious reasons.
Yeah. I believe I can fly.
It's the second song.
And demonetized. You had to do it.
R. Kelly is not a good guy. There's our ad revenue back. Yeah.
But let's get off that and onto how awesome Hit 'Em High is. That is an underrated Posse rap cut right there.
All right, yeah, the Monstars anthem.
Not only do you have Be Real from Cypress Hill, you got Coolio, you got Method Man both with his own solo work, and he's a part of the Wu-Tang Clan. You got LL Cool J on here, and much like in our favorite albums episode, the most recent one, I talked about how awesome a Tribe Called Quest scenario is, because the end verse is done by one Busta Rhymes, and oh look, he's on this track too.
Wow.
Oh,
that's cool. I also, my two favorite songs on this track are the Seals cover of "Fly Like an Eagle."
Yes,
that was a good cover.
Yeah, Seals
That's
cover,
awesome.
And the song that anchors the movie, not the R. Kelly shit. That was No, Quad City DJs, the song literally called Space Jam. Like, it's a song that makes no sense, but boy, is it fun to dance to.
It's a banger. Like, it's made for parties. I also actually have found I really kind of find some funny humor in Barry White and Chris Rock's remake of the Cheech and Chong track Basketball Jones.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of funny. I actually found myself really digging the cover of That's the Way I Like It by Spin Doctors and the late Biz Markie.
Ah, yes.
Biz passed away a couple days ago as we're recording this, but like his beatboxing and like his vocals add so much to this. It's kind of like, granted, it was when Spin Doctors was still kind of a thing, kind of hanging on there, but
also Salt and Pepper. Salt and Pepper had a song.
Yeah, their version of Diana Ross's Upside Down, which that's a pretty good one. I actually also really like All for One's song I Turn to You, which I know Christina Aguilera, I think, later did this song as well a couple years later.
Cool. Anyways.
I have a story about the title track as well, because Evan and I believe, did a group project where we did our own sort of choreographed dance to Space Jam. Yes. I think this was 6th grade.
That was 7th grade. We were in media studies, and yeah, that was awesome.
That's it.
Yeah. No, that was awesome, and that was how we borrowed the physical copy of the CD from our friend, and I burned a copy on my computer, and I've had the soundtrack ever since.
I still have the copy you burned for me.
Oh yeah, that's cool. It's yeah. So there's some fun as we can say, there's some fun memories with this movie. It's not as like worthy of the hate it gets, but I caution people with praising it a little too much. It was a sign of the times. It really was. So there was a charm to it.
I gotta be kind of honest. Unlike you guys, I don't think I ever liked this movie.
Well, I mean, yeah, fair enough.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, its flaws are pretty apparent.
Yeah, I'm not fond of the weird angles and the bad like green screening and the dated CGI and all that. But at the same time, like rewatching it, like I didn't like it as a kid because I was never fond of sports movies because I just don't like sports.
It's the Looney Tunes in a sports movie, essentially.
Yeah, but I always loved Looney Tunes, so that's what drew me in. And rewatching it for this podcast, I think it's like fine. It's all right. I don't love it. I don't like it, but it's fine. I'll watch it again for sure. But I can see why people would have like rose tinted glasses about it, especially when you're a kid. Yeah. And it's a fun watch for sure. And it's very, very one thing I appreciate about it is that it has a pretty good pace to it. Yeah. It gets going, and each act fits. Like the first sets up the stakes. The second is like them, getting the gang together and trying to get to their best skill. And the third act, which I like, the last 30 minutes is the game. That's the whole game.
And that's cool.
It's very concise.
The one thing, by the way, we're kind of... Do we care if we... I typically am not a big spoiler guy, but everyone's seen this movie. Do we give a shit if we say how it ends? They win the game.
Well, of course they win the game.
Yeah, they win the game, and the funny part is, so, in order to, play basketball with the Looney Tunes in their world, Michael Jordan has to be late to his baseball game, and there's, like, a scene where, like, his fake actor family is...
in his suburban house.
Yeah, and to quote TJ Kirk's review, they didn't they show Michael Jordan living in a suburban house when at the time he lived in like a freaking mansion. Can we just play the audio clip of TJ Kirk ranting about Michael Jordan's living situation?
Yeah,
okay. Well, throw up the clip.
I hate that the film portrays Michael Jordan as living in a nice house in an idyllic and quaint American neighborhood when really at the time he lived in a 56,000 square foot mansion on 7 acres of private land behind an iron gate with a giant patio, his own putting green, a stocked fishing pond, a basketball court, a full home gym, an expansive wine cellar, a tennis court, and many other luxuries.
Thank you for that, TJ. Anyways,
very astute.
So basically, no, that was great. So, I hate the fact that they didn't. Michael Jordan can act, and apparently, his family does a better job because Teresa Randall, who was a thing for a while, she plays his wife, I guess, and
yes.
And his kids, the kids in this movie are not his real kids. Despite the fact that in real life Michael Jordan does have a real family, but like they get actors to play his kids. That really bugs me, and I don't know why. I know his kids and his family can't act, and to force them to do that would be cruel. But yeah, so basically the wife is like, "Where's Michael? I don't understand why he's late for this baseball game." And the kid's like, "Oh, he's at his other game." And she's like, "What other game?" A spaceship lands in the baseball diamond. Humanity just made first contact, and out comes Wayne Knight with a bullhorn saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Jordan!" And and everyone just claps and act like an alien ship just landed in your baseball diamond. Like you're not gonna question the meaning of life or anything. I mean,
and to further point out the futility of that whole intro, they probably lost the game. We don't see if they win. They could have lost the game, and that big spectacle of an intro would have been for nothing.
That's true. But then, and by the way, he goes and meets his friends Patrick Ewing, Charles Barkley, Larry Johnson, I believe, Muggsy Bogues, and that other guy whose name I can't remember. Sean Bradley. And he gives them their talent back, because it's really weird. In a bit of a medical horror / comedy, the biggest basketball stars in the world who weren't Michael Jordan, like
they lost their mojo.
No, you literally, the aliens in a scene that you want to talk about celebrity cameos. The aliens do a really cool spin, a really unique and funny twist on the whole anonymous prick in a trench coat in movies. Like they sneak into Madison Square Garden where the Knicks are playing a game, and they steal the talent of Charles Barkley and Patrick Ewing in one swing, and they do this by turning into Jello and infecting their way into.
I call it N1000.
Yeah, no, they
turn T1000.
Yeah, no, they go like N1000 into their bodies, and they suck out their mojo and put it into a basketball, and that's how they become the Monstars. But what I found what actually kind of scared me as a kid, where later on there's a scene where basically the whole NBA takes notice that these 5, players all of a sudden can't play for shit anymore, and then chaos ensues. They think there's a virus, and it gets to the point where the Great Western Forum in LA gets shut down, and they say, until we can guarantee the health and safety of the NBA players, there will be no more basketball this season. I wonder if that would happen in real life 24 and some odd years later.
Also centering around LA.
Yeah. But anyways,
I did love this scene where they're all getting examined mentally and physically to see if there's anything apparently wrong with them.
Yeah.
That was a fun little montage.
Yeah, no, to the tone of that song we just mentioned, Basketball
Jones. And Charles Barkley is trying to figure out. He's trying to become more religious, and he's like, "I promise I'll never swear again."
Yeah. That kind of I'll never get into, because in real life Charles Barkley was a sore loser up the ass, and he got fined for almost assaulting a referee at one point. True story. No, seriously, the referee called a foul on him, and it cost his team the game. He took it super personally. He fucking chased after the guy, and he got fined for it. It was I read about this. I'm like, wow, this guy's a dick. But then they kind of play on that, and he kind of owns it too. He's like, I'll never swear again. I'll never get another technical. And then it's and my favorite scene is where he's in therapy, and then it's like, so you had a dream that these kids from the hood beat you in basketball? It wasn't a dream. It really happened. And then Patrick Ewing's in therapy. It's like, are there any areas besides basketball where you feel unable to perform? And then it's like, no, just ask him.
Yeah, I'll allow it.
Yeah, it's like, so that's anything else anyone want to say about this oddly charming trip down memory lane to the 90s? Where the hell is Cody? I guess his time machine isn't working today.
Yeah, he would have been perfect for this episode.
Maybe it's taking a day off.
Yeah.
Every time machine needs a day off.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. Time off.
The dynamics between the Looney Tunes themselves seem like what you would expect. Obviously, Bugs feels a little bit more macho than usual because he's trying to impress Lola.
Yeah.
But it does like to have that whole, Bugs and Daffy rivalry. And there's even the joke towards the end, I think, at the beginning of the basketball game where Daffy comes out and after everybody else in the starting lineup gets all this applause from the audience, which is like there's a bunch of callbacks to other Looney Tunes shorts. If you guys have seen some of them, you'll recognize some of the little characters and callbacks there. But when Daffy runs out, it's dead silent.
Yeah.
And he's like, very funny. Let's all laugh at the duck.
Yeah.
And I'd like to have, Granny being on the bench. I would have liked to see more of like Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner aren't bench players, but like they tend to focus on having like the main Looney Tunes like Bugs, Daffy, Lola, maybe a couple others have more
Porky Pig,
like
Elmer.
prominent role.
Porky Pig
Even
and Elmer.
Porky isn't like as notable. It just seems like it's those three and the rest. But on a voice cast front, I wouldn't say it's so much lackluster as it is. Some of them actually work quite well. Billy West playing Bugs and Elmer. I've liked some of Billy West's voice work over the years.
Oh, wow.
You have D. Bradley Baker as Daffy, Taz, and the Bull. If you remember the Bull from Bully for Bugs.
Oh yeah. He was a pain in the ass for one of the Monstars.
But
Yeah.
Danny DeVito, of course, playing Swackhammer. Bill Farmer, who it's kind of weird hearing the voice of Goofy play Sylvester, Yosemite Sam, and Foghorn Leghorn, because I'm like, oh yeah, I can kind of hear it's like Goofy trying to do a southern accent, and then of course there was like the lines like, "We've got balls."
Michael Jordan. No, Michael Jordan actually kind of one up that line. It's like, you sure do. This place is a mess. It's like, what? Oh my god.
There's another little grease and spit shine can't fix.
Oh yeah.
Spit shine.
And then there's the Tasmanian Devil, who actually they have some fun with him.
Bob Bergen was good at the few characters. Of course, the late June Foray does Granny like few others can.
Oh yeah.
As you'll see later.
She's one of
Maurice LaMarche as the skunk, who I will have some thoughts on him later.
Oh yeah. I don't really remember him being like that big in the movie. He was in Space Jam and in Looney Tunes Back in Action. He has like maybe one or two scenes in both those movies.
I just remember.
I mean, he's credited. He's there, but he's.
I just remember Wayne Knight blew a big fart, and even he covered his nose. And that was the joke.
Oh no, that was because he got basically flattened by the Monstars. Spike and the other dog, they had to inflate him, and that was the joke.
I hate flat Wayne Knight. That's a nightmare for me.
Yeah. Well, the effect
what's
also
kind of neat with the Nerdlucks is one of them was actually voiced by Catherine Reitman.
Oh wow! And Ivan Reitman was one of the
the purple one.
Ivan Reitman was one.
Well, it makes sense. Yeah, I only made that connection when seeing the credits and saw, oh yeah, Ivan produced it.
I did like the Ghostbusters nod when like Bill Murray just shows up out of the blue. He's like, "What's Dan Aykroyd doing here?"
Yeah, and also it's like, Mr. Murray, how exactly? Daffy asks him, "Hey, Mr. Murray, how exactly did you get here?" It's like, I was friends with a producer, and that's how I got. It's like, well, that's how it goes.
It's like either a combination of breaking the fourth wall, or he gives no shits about it.
Yeah,
I love how he has
there is no illusion here.
Yeah,
I love how he has a character arc where he, for some reason, really wants to play in the NBA. And he tries to get Larry Bird to
endorse him,
put in a word for him.
And then Larry Bird's like, no.
Yeah. Larry Bird seems like a chill guy.
Yeah.
Just play golf.
I like that whole line though with him, like, perhaps I can be of some assistance. Like, okay, Venkman.
Yeah.
I did get the Ghostbusters reference right? That was his character.
Yeah, Venkman's his name. Yes.
Thank you.
Good job.
Last voice actor note, of course. Resident animal sound effect extraordinaire Frank Welker is Charles the dog. If you remember the scene where they have to get Michael's Lucky North Carolina shorts.
Oh, right, yeah.
That was a good scene.
Frank Welker, of course. Yeah.
For some reason, I like the integration of the cartoons in the live-action world better than the live-action actors in the cartoon world.
Oh, yeah, I know, because it felt like, it was done really well, save for that really bad CGI shot of the dog. But other than that really bad green screen shot of the dog. But other than that, it was kind of like something you'd see in Who Framed Roger Rabbit or any other like epic where cartoon characters blend together with real people.
I feel like we're gonna mention Roger Rabbit a lot in this.
Oh yeah.
But
well,
it set the standard.
There hasn't really. Well, Roger Rabbit was kind of like the staple for many years of how to. Well, first there was that Tom and Jerry cartoon where Tom dances with.
Technically, the first one to ever pull that off was the Three Caballeros.
Oh yeah.
It was the very first film.
Oh, that's an underrated one.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
And then there's Mary Poppins, of course.
Oh right, yeah. Now
and Bedknobs and Broomsticks, I think.
Yeah. Same crew too.
So, anyways, that's okay. So, unless anything else to say, that's Space Jam. Nice little trip down memory lane.
Still has a cult following a quarter century later. It's been re-released countless times on home media, including an Ultra HD Blu-ray release just a couple weeks ago.
Now, I smell potential for a sequel, or a sequel / reboot of the classic story of
I'm sorry, all Warner Brothers sees is those mad dollar signs and nostalgia dollars based on all the IPs they own.
Yeah, now get this. So here's the plot of the sequel to Space Jam. Steven Spielberg directs this epic virtual reality world where you can dive in and be anything. Oh, wait, am I talking about the right movie?
Yeah, you are.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me that in the Looney Tunes world, the only limit is your imagination?
Yeah, apparently the
I think we have our movies mixed up.
Yeah. No, so there's this guy who
don't.
He wants to win this big contest, so he recruits all his favorite characters to come help him, all his favorite gamers.
It all piles into a massive battle at the end.
Yeah, no, and there's this.
And somehow the Iron Giant is involved.
Yeah, no, the Iron Giant's there,
and King Kong.
This evil corporate millionaire wants to take over the whole system and basically monetize the shit out of it. I really feel like we're not talking about the sequel to Space Jam.
I got the titles right there. Ready Player LeBron.
No, Josh, Ready Player Braun.
Yeah, Josh came up with that one. I can't take credit for that one.
Space Jam: A New Legacy, everybody.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here we go.
So yeah, and Steven Spielberg didn't direct the sequel to Space Jam.
No, the guy behind Scary Movie 5 directed this one.
How the heck did you get that?
The development of this sequel has been a long time coming.
So, Michael Jordan is old, bald, and fat, so he can't come back. Or can he? We'll get to that later, but the point is, he can't come back, so who is the next Michael Jordan 25 years later?
Giannis Antetokounmpo. He just won a championship last night.
All right.
Oh, wait, no, this was before that happened. Steph Curry. The Warriors won 3 out of 4 NBA Finals and like one of the most dominant teams in the mid-late 2010s. Oh, no, wait, who else?
Kawhi.
No, not Kevin Durant. He switched between teams a lot. Clippers didn't do... They did fine this year, but, Kawhi's... who else can we get? That's a tricky question. I know. How about that guy that jumps around between teams, and a lot of people attribute him to being the reason the NBA has been full of super teams the last 5-6 years?
LeBron James.
I think he likes to think of himself as royalty or something.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So anyways, LeBron James is the central focus of this movie. As crazy as it sounds, the story is more complex than the first Space Jam had a simple premise. This premise is actually kind of complicated. There's like 5 different plots, and they all intersect. Yeah, there's a lot going on in this movie. And
are you gonna have me recite the plot to this one?
You know what?
I'll make a long story short.
Yeah, Josh can do it.
How about Josh takes it?
Yeah. So, the little premise at the beginning is it shows LeBron as a kid at a basketball practice, and his friend gives him a original Game Boy because he had just gotten a Game Boy Color. So this gives you the time frame of probably like around the time the first movie came out in the mid-late 90s. He's practicing. The coach is basically telling him to get his head in the game, and then he has to throw out the Game Boy. Meanwhile, I'm thinking, what a perfectly good waste of something that would be actually able to probably pay a mortgage in 25 years. Then it goes to the present. The gist of it is LeBron wants his son Dom to focus on playing basketball, where Dom, who is a quite adept game designer, wants to go to an E3 coding camp and like a game design camp and make his own game, which he's already been working on.
Yeah.
So then there's this, of course, Warner Brothers has to insert themselves into the plot of the movie, where LeBron meets with Warner Brothers because their algorithm, very cleverly named Algorithm, it took 6 people to write this. 6.
And one of the writers is credited twice. No, I'm not kidding about that. It's so weird.
The thing with Terrence Nance is he was actually, I believe, the original screenwriter, but he left, I think, in 2019, and so it had to be rewritten from there. I guess it must have been really important. He must have been really crucial to the development of the movie. That's why they credited him twice. Regardless, the algorithm is able to listen in and finds that his son, LeBron's son Dom seems to value his tech more, like the idea for this tech where they can literally insert LeBron into the movies. So, like what a green screen and CGI already do.
Isn't there an app for that or something?
Yeah.
I see it.
Oh, yeah, that's the idea. They try and make some sort of serververse app, but Dom then gets like absorbed into this like basketball shaped serververse thing, and so LeBron has to go in after him, and he gets sucked into Toon World and becomes animated, which animated LeBron is sort of a nice nod to some of the newer Looney Tunes show things that have been on HBO Max, which, did I mention this is on HBO Max? Because I don't think Warner Brothers wants us to forget it's on HBO Max.
God. Yeah. Like, I feel like they went back and wrote, the little plug-in specifically when streaming services were all the rage in 2020 when COVID was killing movie theaters. But anyways.
Well, the opening sequence shows of LeBron's accomplishments up to and including the Lakers NBA Finals victory over the Heat last year.
Oh, wow.
So you can tell that this opening must have only been edited in the last, 12 months.
That makes sense. One of the things, and speaking of LeBron James, I like the fact that they don't sugarcoat. He doesn't live in a suburban house. They show his action. I'm sure what is probably close to
that sweeping shot made it look like I was watching a reality show or something.
Yeah, no, okay, they're not trying to sugarcoat they're not trying to make him look like this down to earth middle class guy. No, this guy lives in a mansion with gated security and high tech systems. And there was one point where he's riding the elevator with his son, and I honestly thought his own mansion had an elevator for a second. I tuned in and out of this movie, quite honestly, while I was watching. There were a couple of scenes where I just lost all interest, and I'm like...
But wait, it gets better. So, the AI is played by War Machine.
Don Cheadle.
Yeah, Don Cheadle.
Yeah.
And so, essentially, it's the same... The basketball premise is the same as the first one, except instead of the heroes challenging the villains to a basketball game, it's the other way around, and LeBron has to assemble a team of, I guess, characters from other Warner Brothers properties, and of course he gets sucked into Toon World and meets Bugs. Now, credit to the writers here, they do make Toon World actually quite desolate, and Bugs has clearly been through some shit, because, there's that one, I showed a screenshot in our group chat for this podcast, where Bugs looked just so hungover and exhausted, and that gave me shades of SpongeBob's hangover in the SpongeBob movie after a night at the Goofy Goober.
Yeah, it looked Goofy Goober.
Such an emotional crisis.
Yeah, but what's interesting? Yeah, no, the whole. So I kind of like how the filmmakers allude to the fact that the Looney Tunes up until now have kind of faded from relevancy. The Looney Tunes tried to make a comeback into action with Back in Action in 2003, but that movie unfortunately bombed and bankrupted a Warner Brothers animation studio in the process. I just learned that this week. Very sad, because I actually kind of like that movie. But anyway, so the Looney Tunes kind of faded from relevancy over the years, but the movie kind of wants to make that point. But when they do come back, there are some jokes that I actually think is really funny. There's this joke where Daffy Duck is in DC. Is on planet DC, and he's trying to steal Superman's thunder, and they do this cheesy ass Wonder Woman reference with Lola. It felt out of place. It was really weird.
It took me a while.
Well, it is out of place. It is actually they give Lola far more character development than obviously Space Jam was ever going to give her, and it also speaks to Lola's actually become a lot more of a reliable supporting character in the more recent iterations of this franchise than they would have ever conceived it when they came up with her.
I can't believe there was a controversy when they showed a screenshot of her physical outline in the movie, and it didn't have bunny boobies, and a lot of people were mad about that. It's guys, is that
yeah? We'll talk about things quote unquote worth getting upset about shortly.
Oh,
that's what the internet's for.
Yeah. So, anyways. This movie, in a weird way, it is, to me, overall, it is better and worse than the first Space Jam at the same time. It does something...
That's pretty accurate.
It's better and worse at the same time. And because, everything is CG now, during the actual basketball game, which, by the way, you want to talk about the 3-act structure? I feel like there's a
2-act structure.
No, there's a 4-act structure. I feel like
I don't know, because like the first act.
There's
like
a too many acts structure.
That's good too, because like the first half of the film is like just them wandering around and then going into
and trying to recruit
the
people.
Yeah, the recruiting bit. There's no training montage, oddly enough. It's very truncated, and then the last half is the entire game.
Yeah.
It takes up an hour, and it feels like 4.
Yeah.
But I will say, I do like the fact that LeBron was actually animated within the Toon universe and the Serververse for the most part. I think that was a better blend. It almost makes me wish they did that in the original, but I guess you can't have everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, you like movie references, guys?
Not
Yeah,
kinda.
We'll have all the movie references.
When they're done, I like movie references when they're done with a point.
Remember acting powers?
Oh God. Where Elmer Fudd is mini.
Now, at the same time, the Matrix one was a little bit unexpected, but I didn't. This movie does give, and this is a point I have to give a New Legacy. It gives some of the lesser known characters a lot more focus, and they're actually involved in the basketball. Well, like Speedy Gonzalez, he's in the Matrix one, but at the same time, I think he's on the bench. He's voiced by the fluffy comedian, and I'm like, that's awesome. I've been a fan of Gabriel Iglesias for quite some time. It's great to see him still getting some work.
I also love how Granny actually is in the game and not just a cheerleader this time.
Sometimes, yeah. She had some
I'm mixed on her now.
I didn't need her to talk about Twitter.
Well, there was...
And, of course, the haters gonna hate because our writers, everybody.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of, I also found that this movie kind of aired... do you know what? I honestly... Remember how in 2018 when Disney had their version of this movie with Ralph Breaks the Internet, where it's basically a giant panderfest to the Disney Corporation? When Warner Brothers...
And it also had a Wonder Woman type character.
Oh, right, yeah. Played
well,
by
not really, but it was... Gal Gadot was in that.
She was, yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't get Gal Gadot for this. They got Rosario Dawson instead.
Yeah.
I love Rosario Dawson, but it's just like it's strange they didn't get her on board.
It just made me think of, if they could get Lego Barbara Gordon, how come they couldn't get Lego Batman? And damn it, Will Arnett should have been in this.
Oh my God, you're right. Rosario Dawson was in Lego Batman. I got Lego Batman vibes from this too.
Yeah.
Just the third act of Lego Batman, because eventually just a whole bunch of Warner Brothers movie characters show up.
Yeah.
But it's done
where
a little
the
better.
first movie has the whole idea of a villain being this, like, alien from a theme park that tries to enslave the Looney Tunes for more revenue. Algae Rhythm at least has a more devious idea where Dom's been developing this like futuristic basketball game that NBA 2K whatever wishes it could be, where he has this technology where he scans several real life NBA and WNBA players into the game, and Algae uses this and essentially takes that data and transforms them into the Goon Squad. So the Monstars are no more. Essentially these real life players.
We're not gonna get an Independence Day resurgence type of deal where the aliens come back like 10 times stronger.
I was gonna say there's not a lot of space for a movie called Space Jam, unless you count
cyberspace. Ooh.
But yeah.
But
yeah.
I think
they should have called
cyberspace. Not only
Jam
that
would have been perfect. Yeah.
It would have, but it would have felt a little too dated, a little too wordy of a title. So Dom ends up actually being pitted against his father in more ways than one, since Algae is trying to convince him to like create his own character and actually up his stats like all the way, and basically makes a team full of essentially game-breaking characters where all their stats are like super maxed out. They've got all these special abilities, and you really do feel it throughout, especially with Dom, that he's just a kid that wants to learn how to make video games and really doesn't care that much about sports. And, you've got an older generation in his father sort of pushing him to, be more involved in sports like him. And, just because, you want a cycle to repeat doesn't mean it should, because it's unhealthy to push your kids into doing things they are not comfortable with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you find the conflict believable between LeBron and his son?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Like, I can relate to feeling like I'm being pushed down a path that I'm really not into and wanting to try and rebel against it. Yeah. At the same time, it's like, this kid obviously is the character is written like really to be a really smart, technologically inclined kid. But like even the way the tech looks, it's like it somehow is able to like generate live streams based on how people are watching. It was kind of weird how they explain it, but the point is, it's like I almost felt the entire Goon Squad thing is like a parody of it is literally a parody of an NBA super team. It's like there is no way it wasn't even like the Monstars where it was just aliens that stole NBA players' talent. This is essentially data based on actual people's abilities, and then they just have like monster forms. And they actually did get some pretty prominent NBA players to voice these because like you see the live action cameras, but you had Anthony Davis, you had Damian Lillard, you had Klay Thompson, and they actually gave some WNBA representation with Diana Taurasi and Nneka Ogwumike, which we really need to see just because the WNBA did not exist when the first Space Jam came out. So to see some of that representation in here is kind of nice.
That's awesome.
I didn't know it was that recent.
Oh yeah, no, the WNBA is a very new thing.
It only started like a couple years after the first Space Jam came out, but like it's kind of an underrated thing in that it sometimes can get better ratings and more fan interest than the NBA itself sometimes.
Yeah.
But what's a basketball game without dozens and dozens of characters coming in out of nowhere to fill up an otherwise empty space?
Oh, Christ.
Which leads me to my next point. So, I will not contest that the character of Pepe Le Pew has been problematic for quite some time, and I can understand the decision to not want to include him for possibly being linked to things like that, especially in modern culture. So, a killer clown and a depraved street gang are okay, though, because you own them, right?
Yeah. Kind of hypocritical.
Yeah, and also there are a ton of Game of Thrones references. But by the way, this is a kids movie. What kids are watching Game of Thrones? I'm just
very mature kids, which those do exist.
I'm not trying to be that overly concerned pseudo parent, but it's like I'm not going to show Game of Thrones. If you've seen Game of Thrones, I'm not showing that to my kid.
It feels weird when you see like Alex and his droogs like hanging around the basketball court.
Yeah,
or just a Pennywise just there.
What was up with dude from Buddy from A Clockwork Orange is there, and Pepe Le Pew can't be?
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
And I gotta say, like these extras,
also
they must have had a budget or something, or like a lesser budget on the costumes and the cosplayers, because it's not very convincing for the most part, and they're just kind of like
it's going to be the first post-pandemic Comic-Con cosplay.
Yeah, it feels like that, and it just feels like they're in idle animation the entire time. There's no fun interactions between the two for the most part. The CGI ones get more, but like for the most part, it looks very unconvincing, and I find it distracting.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of CGI, what are y'all's thoughts on the turning the hand-drawn Looney Tunes into the CGI ones for the game? The whole sequence that takes place.
I knew it was coming, but I'm indifferent to it because I once played a video game where the Looney Tunes were like CGI characters, and it looked weird, but like the animation effort, you can't fault the studio for that. I get the whole point, I honestly thought the twist was going to be if you turn them into CGI, you'll take away their ability to be loony. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like, you'll take away their looniness, which means they won't be loony. But here's the thing, like, when there's actually a bit of a heartfelt moment where the Looney Tunes are like, we're losing the game because we're trying to play like you, LeBron. It's like, that's a problem. You're trying to play like me. You can't be me. You guys got to be you. Like, surprisingly heartfelt. I like that.
Yeah.
Dude, between halves, there was actually a kind of funny joke where Sylvester tries to actually get Michael Jordan, but he gets Killmonger instead.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, they could have done something. I like, and then I looked over at your face and you're like, Lyle's like, why movie? Of course, Michael, I kind of saw that joke coming from a mile away because it's like, oh, Michael B. Jordan, the Oscar-winning actor. Or the Oscar.
Yeah, but they also wait way too late into the movie to do that. Like, if they were going to try doing that, they could have done it at the very beginning.
Well, they thought it would be like a Hail Mary pass or something, but it kind of just fell flat.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If I wanted to watch something involving a Hail Mary pass from LeBron, I'd watch the Simpsons episode he voiced in.
All right, yeah. Now, on that note, I'm not gonna lie, LeBron James. It's not like this is his first acting gig ever, because he was in Trainwreck and he was in The Simpsons. So he's a better actor than Michael Jordan. I'm just gonna be real.
He carries it a little better.
He owns like what's going on.
It's just as manufactured, but it's at least a little more believable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no, it's totally manufactured, and there's tons of like little winks and nods to like contemporary life and pop culture and stuff.
No, he was good.
Can I just say it is awesome to have Gossamer, the monster, actually playing basketball in this one? He was just an audience member in the first Space Jam, and he finally gets to play.
Yeah, I was shocked by that. I didn't expect him to have so much screen time, because I always liked him in like the spookier Looney Tunes
Yeah,
episodes.
he's one of the starting 5. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. I was glad. I guess he was supposed to replace Pepe Le Pew or whatever, so hey, I like him better, so that's great.
Yeah.
Not a ton of jokes at his expense, but
And then what's not so great is the random Porky rap battle, written by Murs, mind you, but still, it's very much a Steve Buscemi "How do you do, fellow kids" moment if you're ever going to see one.
that was super cringy. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And for a rap battle, it was incredibly one-sided. The other team didn't even bother.
Oh god, yeah, and like Porky Pig is. I get it because he has a stutter, and it's cool to see him form a sentence without breaking it.
Make a really obvious pun.
Yeah. By the way, I just gotta go back to the first Space Jam for a second. It's not like the Looney Tunes have never rapped before. Like on the soundtrack of the first movie, there's this
There's
this track
Ghost
called
written
Bug.
by Jay-Z.
Seriously? Oh wow.
Yeah, well, he has a writing credit.
Oh yeah. There were parts of it are dated though, and you're not gonna believe this, but this was back when Trump was like king of the millionaire shit. There's actually a Trump reference in there's a Trump reference, and there's also a presidential reference in that song. Like Fitz Day One had his and hers first, like Trump's wife up to my ears in carrots. His Trump's wife at the time being Ivana, and also there's later in the song.
Hold on now. That can't be right.
Yeah. Why would? I feel like we just kind of got sidetracked a little bit. We're not no politics. We're not going there. But anyway, so
I didn't quite. I mean, I understood in the New Legacy why Daffy's the coach, but
that made
twisted
sense.
it to be a player coach thing because those did exist at some point. And I feel like Daffy as a player coach would have fueled more of the Bugs Daffy rivalry.
Yeah. That would have been cool.
I was surprised Daffy wasn't a player. He was like the coach of the game.
Yeah.
That was a little.
Well, I guess that was a trade-off for Gossamer to be playing. Someone had to not be playing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, speaking of coaches, Marvin the Martian really gets the shit end of the stick in this movie.
Oh yeah, he's he was at least the ref in the first one. Here it's just
No, he's a punching bag. I mean, I appreciate his opening when he just shows up and there's the UFO. And they do like a lot of his stand-ups, like "You have made me very angry."
Yeah.
And I liked all that, but then they just kept repeating the same joke, just stepping on him and stuff, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
I
Also,
can't be the only one who likes him.
Very briefly going back to in the first Space Jam, he's the referee, and that actually makes perfect sense because Marvin the Martian. He's literally from space, and it's the Looney Tunes versus aliens, and he is both a Looney Tune and an alien, so it makes sense that he would be the mediator between the two sides.
Oh, that's actually clever.
I didn't make that discovery. Meme culture did. So, yeah.
I guess you can't do
the stakes of the basketball game though are a little strange. Like they really decide to amp it up because if the Toon Squad loses, not only will all of them get deleted, but all the real people that got sucked in through their phones are also trapped in the serververse.
Yeah, it turns into Sword Art Online or.
That was that.
There's a deep cut.
That kind of came out of nowhere, but it. At the
Oh
same
my
time,
God, Looney Tunes anime! Come on, Crunchyroll, get on it.
Jesus.
Yeah, but no, the game was. Sorry.
The second half, they realize, you know what? We got to fight fire with fire, so they go all out NBA Jam, NBA Street, whatever arcade basketball video game you've played. they embrace it.
I was just about to say, the game reminded me a lot of NBA Jam, because there's so many power-ups and crazy moves, and there's, like, style bonuses and stuff. Like,
that was the thing behind Dom's game. You get, like, it's not the traditional basketball arcade game you're thinking of. It was only missing Tim Kitzer going, boom, shakalaka, after some of the crazier dunks.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, and speaking of the big, twist, the big glitch that saves the day, but also results in a human sacrifice. Spoiler alert for those of you who haven't seen the movie. Skip ahead a couple of minutes if you don't want to hear.
I mean,
Bugs Bunny dies. Bugs Bunny dies, but not really.
Well, to provide some context, when Dom is initially like showing LeBron the game, his character does basically LeBron's signature move, which causes the character to glitch, and he loses a day's worth of progress. Yeah. And the Toon Squad realizes that one of them has to perform that glitch in order to have the Goon Squad lag out enough for them to get a shot off and win the game. And so it looks like LeBron's going to do it, but then Bugs sacrifices himself and does the shot, and they win. And I think he also posterizes is the term when you dunk on somebody. He's able to posterize Algae at the same time with like the help of a well-placed X super jump.
Yeah. No, I didn't believe for 1 second that they were just gonna get rid of Bugs Bunny.
Like, you don't bring.
No, but they pulled an Avengers Endgame.
Yeah. But like, again, I didn't buy it for a second. I hate that trope in movies because it's like, yeah, they're really gonna get rid of the most iconic Looney Tune, and then the next scene he just appears and he's in the real world. I guess is that what happens when you glitch out? You get sent into the real world and projected. It's weird. It's very weird. It's like, are they even really the Looney Tunes, or are they just digital facades of the Looney Tunes? It raises questions.
They're brands. They're brands to be marketed to with all of the markets in the world.
As if
like Food Fight.
As if the first
Oh
Space Jam
God,
like that.
no.
That's another deep cut.
As if
Warner Brothers at least has a little more dignity than goddamn Food Fight.
A little.
Understatement.
Yeah, that's an understatement. Yeah,
we will not bring up Food Fight here.
No.
Yeah.
I actually also really like that Sonequa Martin Green was in this, because I found out she's the main character. She's the main on Star Trek Discovery, so I'm like, oh, that's cool.
I bumped into her on.
She wasn't in the movie a lot, but that's cool.
Yeah, I bumped into her on set once when I was on that show.
Yeah.
Lyle stories.
Yeah, there's not much to say. I just saw her walk around the set, but it was cool.
I actually like the commentary from Ernie Johnson Jr. and Lil Ray Howery, because they were both like, it's like you were watching a real basketball game, but they'd have that very much tongue-in-cheek, fourth wall breaking stuff about the reality that they could very likely be trapped there forever.
Yeah.
Like, it was that little element that was actually kind of missing from the first Space Jam, even though you had those, like, the mouse pretending to be an announcer. It adds a little bit more authenticity.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have the credits, which is literally, different shots of different Looney Tunes characters on LeBron's Instagram doing stuff. But it has a Bill Murray callback. Not the one it should have been, but...
I thought that was Bill Murray. I was very confused because it was kind of far away and a little blurry. So, like, did they just take some picture he took on Instagram and put Looney Tunes over it, or what's the deal?
I think that's maybe the idea. All of the references were just like, if a Clockwork Orange and It were not enough to like make you raise your eyebrows, we have Rick and Morty in this thing too.
Yeah.
And they can't swear because it's PG.
I mean, at the same time, they couldn't in The Simpsons, and they found a way to put them in a couch gag just fine.
Oh wow.
I mean, it's not just swearing; it's just like the gratuitousness and the violence and everything.
It's just the nature of the IP, and much in the same way, Ready Player One crams a lot of different IPs, and it's just a story that feels like Willy Wonka mixed with... There was something I was going to mix it with. Willy Wonka mixed with the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Even though the Hunger Games, like, was probably a little bit before, it does some things better than the original, but it's still also a pretty below average film by comparison.
So, all in all, yeah, no, in a weird way, Space Jam: A New Legacy, to me, it's better. I said this before. It's better and worse than the first one. The first one has an appeal. I wonder, how do you think this movie's going to age? How do you think people are going to look back on this in 20 years?
I don't know. I get such a cynical flavor from it that I don't really get from the first one as much. Even though that one also has a lot of product placement and commercialism.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I find fascinating looking at the production history of A New Legacy, of what it ultimately became, because there was going to be a proper sequel to Space Jam decades earlier. There would have been a proper actual sequel. There was potentially one called Spy Jam where Jackie Chan would have been in it. There would have been one with Jeff Gordon called Race Jam. There would have been a golf-themed one with Tiger Woods. There would have been a skateboarding-themed one called Skate Jam, which in early 2000s skateboarding culture, hell yeah, I would have signed up for that.
On board for that.
Tony Hawk would have. So we could have had like a
Tony Hawk and Team CKY, like Bam Margera, all that stuff. Give me 96 Quite Bitter Beings in a Skate Jam movie.
Looney Tunes Underground 2.
No, like it could have been. There could have been like the LTCU, the Looney
Lords
Tunes,
of Toontown.
the Looney Tunes.
Oh wait, no, that's too much like Disney.
The Looney Tunes cinematic universe.
I was just about to say, yeah, Looney Tunes could have offered themselves to more than just basketball.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing inherently similar about the two. You could have just done any sport and it would have worked.
Yeah, no, you could have done it with NASCAR. You could have done it with lacrosse,
or baseball.
curling. Yeah.
That's probably the most tragic thing about Skate Jam is because of how bad Back in Action tanked. Its chances basically flopped.
Oh,
After
so
that
wait,
point.
so Back in Action was kind of like a launch vehicle, so to speak, for this hypothetical Looney Tunes cinema bonanza. I guess it would have been
somewhat.
Well, I mean, like Looney Tunes Back in Action was kind of had a spy theme going. They cast a James Bond actor in it, for God's sake. Yeah. Hey, did you see that part? Yeah, you haven't watched that far. Yeah, no. Timothy Dalton plays Brendan Fraser's dad in that movie.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I feel like you're gonna.
It wasn't even until 2014 that like LeBron was actually attached to star in this sequel. And things went on. By 2016, Justin Lin, who is known for Fast and the Furious movies, several of them, was attached to direct.
Yeah.
Even the late Kobe Bryant was interested in directing the film, but not cameoing in it, which would have been interesting to see if he would have considered a second career in film direction.
Well, he already.
But by August.
Kobe already had the film prowess because he won an Oscar for Dear Basketball. So the guy,
That's true.
The guy was a pro player and an Oscar winner. Like that's pretty rare.
Now we're getting into why your boy Terrence was credited twice here. By August 2018, Justin Lin left this sequel, and Terrence Nance was hired to direct. And in September 2018, Ryan Coogler of Black Panther fame, I'm going to say Coogler. I hope I pronounced it correctly.
Coogler, yeah.
So he was producing the film. And production was supposed to begin in 2019 during that the NBA's offseason that year. Essentially, Terrence Nance left in July of 2019, not even a month after principal photography began, because he and the studio producers, quote, had different takes on the creative vision for Space Jam 2, and then Malcolm D. Lee replaced him. Let's see here, going down here. So it looks like there was a rap party that some stuff that leaked online last March that showed the whole Serververse thing. Industrial Light and Magic made the visual effects, so that does explain why they look as good as they do. Which means Disney worked on that means Mickey and Bugs did work together again. It all makes sense now.
Yeah.
Ain't I a stinker?
It took Touchstone Pictures to bring them together, but hey, look what happened again.
It happened again. That should be the sequel. That's just the name of the sequel. It happened again.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I've acknowledged in even like looking back at both of these that I'm no longer a kid. These movies are for kids, obviously of different generations.
Yeah.
And while they both have flaws and strengths, they're not made necessarily for us. They're there to take, characters and properties that this company owns, or this corporation owns, I should say, and market them in a way that appeals to kids now. And kids now like flashy stuff. They like a bit more action, but they probably watch a lot of other stuff, especially because streaming's opened up a lot of avenues for kids to probably get introduced to these things.
Yeah.
That being said, what are your thoughts on the soundtrack?
Soundtrack? I barely even paid attention to the soundtrack.
Yeah, honestly, it all went. It was like wallpaper to me.
Yeah.
It's way more missed than hits. I wasn't super big on like the lead-in single from this, "Just for Me" by St. John SZA. And who thought it was a good idea to put a Jonas Brothers song on this thing?
Oh, there was.
Granted, it was from like probably their latest record, but still, it just fell out of place.
Oh, was that when Sucker played?
No, Mercy.
Okay, it sounded like Sucker was playing for a little bit at one point.
I actually kind of liked that they got Brockhampton and Big Frida for this because I've been fans of both of those. I've been a fan of Big Frida for many years now. She's great, and Brockhampton have been one of the really fantastic hip hop groups of the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I didn't even. I mean, I guess Lil Baby and Kirk Franklin's "We Win" was fine. It was odd seeing Anthony Ramos on this with the best because I had just seen the movie of In the Heights a couple weeks ago, and he was in Hamilton and he was in that movie as well. So it's a hodgepodge, but it's stuff that speaks to kids today. And even if I'm not necessarily huge on it, I can at least suspect there were a few tracks that are worth checking out.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not quite as much of a slam dunk as the first, I suppose. With a few hitsers, so.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Anyways.
Can't win them all.
So, that was our double jam extravaganza. Thank you very much for listening, Doc. And we'll see you next time.
If you are interested in watching these right now, if you're listening to this in the summertime, A New Legacy is streaming on HBO Max until mid-August, but at the same time, there's probably better ways to spend your time and money. And also, don't do what I did and have a double feature and watch both of these like for 3.5 hours. Make sure to get vaccinated as soon as you possibly can. Wear a mask when you go outside. And once movie theaters do open safely in your area, exercise caution when going.
Yeah.
Very good.
That's true. Sorry if I kind of interrupted. I'm like, I mean, and depending on where you live, yeah, in most areas, movie theaters are starting to open. Granted, it's, a little, the attitude towards vaccinations is a little backwards depending on where you live. But, hey, vaccine hesitancy. We got to beat it. It's cool. No, it's not, vaccine hesitancy itself is not cool. But let's all get vaccinated. Let's all go back to the movies. Let's just have this whole chain of events be done with, like this pandemic.
And let's hope for a Space Jam 3 in the next 10 years.
Oh, God.
In the meantime, that's all, folks.
Please subscribe to our channel.